welcome back, everyone. And some of you guys sent some questions in, and we got some questions also from like Instagram and some stuff like that. So we kind of wanted to go through. We pulled 4 kind of common questions, and we haven't rehearsed this at all. So I'll read the first one, and Natalie will respond first. So, do you have any regrets going through our IVF?
So I don't. I am happy we did IVF, and there's nothing, that I would change. I don't know. Do you have any regrets?
No, I think we were worried, and we did videos on the cost. But I think the only thing I would have changed is just knowing kind of what we know now is just running all the meds through insurance, just because that was just a giant hassle.
Yeah,
so just to reiterate that, one, please go back and watch that video if you haven't. But in a lot of cases, the prescription plans are completely separate from medical plans. So in our case, all of our meds, almost everything was covered under our prescription plan, and it did not go towards our IVF costs. So, and you don't have to have IVF coverage or infertility coverage to have that. You might already have that. So again, that's the only thing I probably would change.
So the second question is, what scared you the most about pursuing IVF?
I think, again, it probably would just be the cost. I think the biggest thing is when you go through just any other process where you pay for a service, you expect an outcome, which we were lucky, obviously. We did pay for a service and we got a good outcome. But I think it's really just like the fear of failure after, going through all of that mentally, emotionally, and financially.
Yeah, I think for me, obviously the cost, because you don't want to, have it not work, and then you're kind of like, well, I just spent, thousands of, but for me, what scared me the most is because if you know our history, if you watch other videos that we've made, you kind of know our history, our loss history. I think what scared me the most is because IVF is kind of, not that there's nothing you can do afterwards, but it's like the last resort type of deal. Like you typically don't do IVF until you've kind of like crossed off everything else. And so for me, if IVF wouldn't have worked, it kind of would have been, it would have really, scared me to, that I would never be able to be a mom, and that, that was kind of the last shot we had, and if it didn't work, that, we wouldn't have a baby. And I think that's what scared me the most, that, we kind of went to the extreme and did IVF, and then if that didn't work, then what? And then another question we got is, if you did not have your losses, would you have done IVF?
I don't think so. I don't think there's any way that I would have ever pursued that. And again, other videos, we talked about how, I always thought IVF was just out of reach just financially. Even if you have a bunch of money stashed away, in most cases, most people aren't going to have that much money stashed away that they're just willing to immediately part with, kind of on a whim. But yeah, we talked about it initially even. I feel like we talked about it. Maybe it was a lucid dream.
No, we kind of talked about it in regards to, we mentioned this in a video too, we talked about it whenever our initial OB, before we were ever pregnant, kept offering genetic counseling, and we kind of said, what's the point? Because even if we were carriers for something, we wouldn't be able to do IVF. But again, that was financially. So I guess I would answer it a little bit differently. So I think we potentially would have pursued it if, we wouldn't have, been able to get pregnant on our own. So if anyone knows our story, so with Drayton, we got pregnant basically immediately, and then after, we lost him, it took us 3 months, and that's when at the 3-month mark we kind of said, why isn't it happening, which I know is ridiculous because it's normal, for it to take up to a year to get pregnant. And that's when I reached out to my OB at the time and I said, hey, is there anything we can do? And we would have, that following cycle, we would have, I would have taken medication to make sure that I ovulated, even though we kind of knew I was ovulating. But then we got pregnant with our second baby, which, if you know our history, we ended up losing that one as well. But I think, if we didn't have the losses, we potentially may have come to IVF if we would have had issues or difficulty getting pregnant. But otherwise, if we would have gotten pregnant, how we did, I don't think we would pursue IVF just for fun.
And the last question is, will you tell Paxton he was an IVF baby? And how would you tell him if you would?
Obviously, if anyone watches us, well, we're here.
Keep saying that, like you've seen the other videos.
Obviously we have these YouTube things, so it's not like, when he gets to the age of, being able to go on YouTube and watch things that we're gonna, block him from viewing it or, what have you. And then I have an Instagram account where, he has a shirt that says, the little embryo that could, and things like that. So definitely, and I have a scrapbook where we have videos of, him actually, being transferred as an embryo. We have pictures, as a 1-day-old embryo all the way up to day 5, I believe. I'm not going to hide those photos for him. So I think, obviously, I tell him all the time. Even when he was a baby, I would kind of, when he was, laying on me, I would kind of tell him the story of how we got him. So I think it's just, we talk about it, and it's just going to be kind of second nature to him. He's not going to know any different. So basically, he already knows. He doesn't obviously understand at this point, but I think it's just going to be something he's used to. So yeah.
So I'll add something to that, but the fact of the matter is, if she's already telling him, then it kind of is useless for me to answer that question. But I think the only thing I want to add is just the fact that, when I was, 10, 12, 13, I don't know when it was, when they started talking about like test tube babies, and I feel like those people were ostracized, and that's my only fear, is that he'll kind of be looked at as if he's different. Effectively, alien of some sort, but hopefully that won't be the case. And I don't really know that. I don't think his friends or anybody's they're not gonna know that. So anywho.
But for me, I think too, knowing his personality, I think that, he would probably, I could see him kind of being like, yeah, I'm an IVF baby, that's why I'm, so strong or so tough. Because if you know him, he's already he's a little monster. So I could see him just being like, yeah, that's why I am the way I am. The only thing that might, if we have another baby, and let's say we have that baby, naturally without IVF, then I think that would be more of a question, how would we explain to them, why is one an IVF baby and why is one not? And I would never want the second baby to think, that they weren't wanted because we didn't go through this big process and that they were just a mistake. So I think that would be more something that we would have to talk to the second baby about, so that they know, that, you just weren't an IVF baby or what have you. But, yeah.
So Natalie's posted a couple of cooking videos in the meantime, and that's mainly because finally she's figured out how to get some time back to cook, and Paxton will just kind of like sit and watch. So we'll probably have a few more of those as well, and we have a couple more in the queue for kind of the pregnancy loss, IVF stuff, and also some of the newborn essential things that we've learned along the way. I think the newborn essentials will probably be the next one, just because we're trying to stay up to date. He's 7 months now,
yeah.
So we can do the 4 to 6. But thanks everybody for joining. And until next time.